What is going on, guys? Dark Gaming here, and I'm bringing you a quote-unquote build video for Saryn over here. And the build is the following. You can see it on screen right now. It's not a perfect build, I already know that. Don't get started in the comments, but it works for me. And this is the build that I ran on my Saryn Prime while taking this footage. It's a pretty decent build, if I may say so myself. It does pretty well even up till sortie level, especially due to those slash procs. I mean, hybrid builds rock. I can't really say much else about that, but let's get on with the build. The build's name is Zer0 Saryn. Now, for those of you who don't know, there's a character in Borderlands 2 named Zer0. He's an assassin. He's basically a cyborg thingy. We don't even know what race he's from, but he's an assassin, he's a samurai, and he always speaks in haiku. So, if that doesn't interest you, then I guess you can just go ahead and skip this video. But if you are interested, this guy throws out a hologram of himself as his ability. So when you're in danger, you could just throw out that hologram and it will cloak you. So with that concept in mind, I made up a build for Saryn. But obviously Saryn can't go invisible, and even if you use her molt, it doesn't exactly make her invincible, so hear me out. Going through the skill trees, which is basically ways for you to upgrade your ability, there is one part for Zer0's ability that allows you to regenerate health when you throw out your little holographic decoy. And Saryn has that regenerative molt augment. So I figured I'd give it a try. So this was the first time I ran Saryn with this build. I didn't even know how it was gonna work. And truth be told, up till 30 minutes, I wasn't really using Saryn's abilities much. I was mostly just running around beating shit up with my Saryn Prime. But it's not necessary that you use the Saryn Prime. You could use things like the Zenny Star, which could possibly be even more powerful than you'd think. Or you could just use things such as, say, I don't know, Nikana Prime. Whatever floats your boat, really. It doesn't matter much what you use as long as it actually works for you. And at least kills enemies. I mean, that's the main point, right? But anyway, going back to the build, using regenerative molt, it allows me to heal, which is another reason why I have rage, but the main reason is because of that deficiency. And I am not running efficiency mods just because, well, I'm gonna be getting damaged a lot, and since I have the ability to heal, what's the point of having efficiency on a build than being able to negate that deficiency with some energy regen? Of course, though, getting hit isn't exactly a good idea, especially with Saryn. She is kinda tanky, but she's not like Rhino Prime tanky or even Nezha tanky. She's somewhat tanky. She can still be pretty squishy. She gets a lot of hits being dealt to her in a short amount of time, but in overall she's pretty good. And with that in mind, I used regenerative molt to heal myself when I was in trouble. And since molt, if you didn't know, actually draws enemy attention, it has a higher alert level than you, so enemies will actually get attracted to the molt instead of your Warframe. That is, of course, if the molt actually survives to begin with. But in that case, it works pretty well because it's basically like you're invisible. And if you have Naramon, I guess you really are invincible. But if you're running Naramon with a Saryn Prime, what's the point of you watching this video to begin with? I mean, you're gonna be invincible all the time. You don't even worry about this stuff. Anyway, Now here's 2 tips that I definitely have to mention if you're gonna use this build. The footage, by the way, that you're seeing right now, it's me going on a 45-minute run in the Derelict. I chose the Derelict over, say, MOT because, let's face it, Saryn's not going to run MOT with this build. You're going to be dealing with enemies that can actually damage you from range. You know, they've got projectiles, they've got weapons, you need to worry about getting hit by long range, while with the Infested, you just have to worry about them getting too close. With a weapon like the Galatine, you don't worry about that at all. Then, again, if you're using something like, say, Saryn Prime, or Zer0 or even, I don't know, Prismaskana, doesn't matter as long as it flows your boat. But whatever weapon you're using, if you're good with it, it doesn't matter because they won't get close enough. You know, you've got your molt when you need it, so you draw enemy attention. You also, it conjures well with your first ability because spores can spawn on Saryn's molt, as you can see me using them right here, and that also adds a bit of efficiency if I recall, so your spores don't cost as much. But either way, you've got your spores right there, and you can just pop them, half the enemy health instantly from those around you, and you can just go around and wreck face. And at the same time, you've got your third ability. Your third ability, which basically adds toxin damage to your melee weapon. It adds a little bit of bonus damage, I think, if it's not just pure toxin additive. But it also gives you a bit of a damage resistance, which makes it a pretty good ability. But I digress. Not a lot of people use melee, but the whole point of this build is for you to use melee. And fun fact, in those 45 minutes, I didn't even touch my fourth ability. I just don't see a reason why would you use your fourth ability when running this build. You're mostly meant to go in there, you know, head first into the battlefield and just wreck things up with your melee blade, or melee weapon in general. Maybe you're running a war and you are dealing with that impact damage. Either way though, overall I must say the build is really good. If you use spores on your molt, if you always have Toxic Lash, which is your third ability, active, it's a really good ability. You just don't need to use your fourth. If you use your fourth, you're basically screwed, because as we already mentioned, this is a deficiency build. You've got 40% negative efficiency, so that fourth is gonna cost you a lot of energy to cast. So I'd suggest you stay away from that. On the other hand, your molt, due to more or less you using it when you're getting into trouble, say an ancient healer is pulling you with that "get over here" hook, well, you just spam molt as soon as you stand up, and the molt's gonna take the damage instead of you, which is pretty awesome. But if it's a toxic ancient, you better GTFO before you get down. On the other hand, Toxic Lash, pretty decent. I mean, bonus damage, who the fuck won't go with that? And you get a bit of a damage resistance when you have your melee weapon. Maybe it's actually when you block that you get the damage resistance. I'm not sure. You might want to do some extra testing. If you can't tell, I'm not really a Saryn main, but with this ability, I think I'm gonna be, or not ability, with this setup, excuse me, I think I'm gonna be running Saryn a lot more. But if I'm gonna be running Saryn, I'm gonna be running her on a solo build. I don't really think she's meant to be used in team play, especially with this build. And if you guys actually run this build, let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. I really want to see what you guys think of it. Does it remind you of Zer0 if you played with that character? Do you think it fits the whole idea, the whole concept that you're actually an assassin, that you've got your blade and you're going into the battlefield? Just fits ready to connect to something, because the Infested don't have faces, do they? Anyway, I want to know if you guys actually run this build. I want to know if you actually like the build, and if it's a build that you might just run now on. It doesn't actually take any forma. I like to run builds that don't really need forma, because if you're gonna run forma on a Warframe, you're more or less a tryhard at that point, and you just really want to do those MOT runs, which I'm not gonna lie, that's a good thing. I mean, it's cool for you to go endless, but in the case that you want to have fun, no point in having forma. So most of my builds don't have any, and this is one of them as well. That's more or less what I have to say about the build. I mean, it's a fun build, it goes pretty well into endgame. I mean, extra damage, the capability to regenerate your health and your energy. There's just everything in one package, and that's mostly what I love about the build. Everything's in one package. There's no, I need to run this instead. Oh, I also need to run this as well. You know, everything's in one package. Now, in the footage, I used Zer0 with the energy regen passive, but since you have Rage, if you're good with counting how much damage you take, you don't just go in there guns blazing, or well, blades blazing, I guess, then you can regen your energy and not have to worry about actually running out of health or energy. But in the case that you just want to have fun and you want to spam abilities when you need them, I would suggest you run Zer0 with the energy passive. On the other hand, if you're not interested into that, maybe you're looking for a little bit more tankiness, I guess Unairu would be a good one. You know, more armor, the capability to keep enemies at a still pace. It could be useful. Of course, nobody really runs Unairu, so if you want to do the change, go ahead. But I'd suggest you go with Zer0 if you're gonna run a school. If you're not gonna run a focus school, then just go with whatever, I guess. But Zer0 I find to be the best. I mean, Zer0's the best for anything, unless if you're gonna go with Naramon. But if you're a scrub like that and you go Naramon, who the fuck cares, right? Everyone's invisible. We don't give a shit about enemies. We also don't give a shit about damage, because we're dealing damage too much anyway. Anyway, guys, that's more or less the whole build. I've been rambling on about it a little bit too long, I think. But either way, I hope I get to see you running this build. I hope I get to see you posting some comments down there saying that, oh, this build sucks, or oh, this build is amazing. And I guess I'll see you next time. Now, right at the end, I want to do a shout out. One of my favorite music producers, the Enigma TNG, made a Tenno Tunes entry. I'm gonna leave the video in the description below. Go check it out. I'd really appreciate it if you support him. And that's all about it. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you.